The three dimensions of time. If I only had time. That's what the Creator thought while mulling over the design stage of the creation. Time is necessary so that experience can be gained from choices taken and changes made at an appropriate pace. For learning in the great here and now, which is the underlying reality of infinite being. Time as we know, it does not exist. Any change has an instantaneous effect. Therefore, in order to enjoy the adventure of immersion in a physical universe, infinite being and its creator aspect needed the dimensional property that we call time. The popular concept of dimensions today is that we live in a four-dimensional world, 3 dimensions of space, and 1 of time. However, the law of creation points to a different reality. As you may know from previous articles, the law of creation has 3 components and a tendency to self-replicate. There is one creator, operating through the 3 aspects or creative principles of thought, feeling, and motion. The 9-dimensional properties of matter are created by each of those aspects, creating 3 varieties of itself. 3 times 3 varieties means that there are a total of 9-dimensional properties of matter. Time is one of the 9-dimensional properties of physical matter. Another is space. Because of the law of creation's tendency to self-replicate, there are furthermore 3 varieties or directions of space, commonly expressed as length, breadth, and height. Now get this, as well as 3 varieties of space, there are 3 varieties of time. We normally think of the standard TikTok version called linear time. Like a clock on the wall, linear time passes at a fixed rate, regardless of whatever you do to change your perception of how slowly or quickly it is passing. Variety 2 of time is called experiential time. In daily life, you notice that time can pass quickly or slowly in your perception. Experiential time is related more to inner consciousness and feelings than it is to the outer world, so its significance to you increases as your frequency of consciousness rises. For example, the spirit world of the afterlife is a subtle, higher frequency version of physical experience. In the afterlife, experiential time plays much more of a role than linear time. Variety 3 of time is something that comes into play when you become more attuned to your soul's level of consciousness. Variety 3 produces timelines. These are alternate realities which are potentially of interest to your soul. Any important change in your primary focus, such as a spiritual awakening experience, will shift you onto a more appropriate timeline. The shift will be obvious to your soul level of awareness, but your physical brain is only designed to be aware of your current timeline. To your physical brain, the only change will be that life is somehow better than it used to be. The great miracle of the dimension of time is not that it can have multiple timeline versions, or that it can expand or contract to suit your consciousness, but that linear time can produce the illusion of slow change, when all that really exists is the great here and now. Think about it, in a reality where all things are here and everything is now. How did the Creator create the illusion of time? So that we could play out our lives of experience at an appropriate rate. The best analogy is that of a motion picture. The original movie films consisted of a sequence of photographs being projected onto a screen at typically 24 frames per second. Even though each frame contains just a static image, the illusion of motion is achieved by subsequent frames being projected fast enough for the human brain to perceive the changes as smooth action. Changes through time are created from a collection of static images, and that is the same way the Creator created time. The universe flashes on and off billions of times per second. It is recreated in each of those rapidly appearing, still action frames. Each frame is a different viewpoint of the great here and now. The physical brain is entrained to the timing of that universal movie projector mechanism. All we see is continual change. even though such change consists of many still action, static frames. And with the framework for time and place, it is then possible for human decisions to be made and for subsequent changes to unfold at a speed that allows for learning and reflection. And that was achieved even though, in truth, all changes are just a collection of different viewpoints of the great here and now. Isn't the universe a wonderful creation? P.S. Space and time are just 2 of the 9 physical dimensions. To study the other dimensions in detail, please refer to my book, Spiritual Metaphysics, Answers to the Great Mysteries of Life. Dear ones, maybe you fear your life is not changing for the better, that what was continues to be, or that this transition is a cartoon image of what should be but never is. You remember the disconnect when you initiated your transition, but not the fear or horror attached to becoming you. As prophesized, your memories of bad times and experiences are fading rapidly, so all you remember about the tribulations you mastered, so you could be at this point in your transition, is that there were some bad times, but not that bad. In truth, many of you contemplated suicide or exiting your job, community, family, or relationships so your pain would disappear. You mastered those pieces despite your apprehension about your ability to do so. Now that you are on a level playing field, if you will, you expect your life to be more exotic, joyful, or playful because you forgot where you started. Your current life is likely a miracle compared to your dark night of the soul, yet you want more. So it is you have transitioned, but before transitioning, you accepted your life as this is all there is. Now you demand this and this and this. You are a new being with new expectations of joy and fulfillment. You are not satisfied with an okay life. You want more, and rightly so. You cannot experience joy if your life is just acceptable or so painful you prefer sleep to wake time. Perhaps you need to review your current life and then some of the writings or other documentation you created during the dark night of your soul. That dark night of the soul pain is almost inconceivable to you now, for you are at a different place where joy and laughter are expected, and pain is more uncomfortable than was true when you were of 3D. You are a new being in a new world, and as you move further and further into that new world, your expectations will continue to shift from just okay to requiring joy. Your fears or deeply held beliefs that your life is terrible and will continue to get worse are fading rapidly. You expect more, expectations that are the seeds of your new you creations. You are no longer willing to just get by, to accept bits and pieces of life from others or yourself. Many of you proclaim that you have not experienced joy. Yet what you are now experiencing is much more pleasant than when you were of 3D. The tide has turned from fear and despair to love, a love that insists you experience this, and this not as a gift from someone who may or may not provide that gift, but from yourself to you. You are creating daily. An indication is your expectations of what your day or near future will be like. You are no longer just getting by. You have expectations, wants, and desires, all of which you are creating whether you acknowledge that or not. In the past, you needed to establish objectives, and once those objectives were achieved, you thought of yourself as lucky, productive, or whatever term you used internally. You did not expect every day, all day, to be filled with fun or joy. Your expectations were created around fear. If I do this, I will not be fired, divorced, homeless, or whatever your fear was. Your new expectations are, if I do this, I might have fun, feel fulfilled, or experience love. The opposite of what you expected in 3D. And even though you likely haven't bothered to compare new you to your 3D thoughts, the difference is dramatic. You are now expecting better than instead of please. You are no longer cowering in the corner of your mind, hoping against hope that your life will improve, or at least not get worse than it is. You expect the best, even better. So it is, and so it will be. You are on a creation roll, a roll of joy and contentment instead of merely keeping your head above water. So be it. Amen.